Does the government work for us or do we work for the government? Can the president use the military to arrest anyone he wants, keep that person away from a judge and a jury, and lock him up for as long as he wants? Tonight, the Senate's dark and terrifying vision of the Constitution. Congress is supposed to work in public. That requirement is in the Constitution. It's there because the folks who wrote the Constitution had suffered long and hard under the British Privy Council, a secret group that advised the king and really ran his government. We know from the now defunct Super Committee and other times when Congress has locked its doors that government loves secrecy and hates transparency. Transparency forces the government to answer to us. Secrecy lets it steal our liberty and our property behind our backs. Last week, while our minds were naturally on family and turkey and football, the Senate Armed Services Committee decided to meet in secret. Behind closed doors, it drafted an amendment to the bill appropriating money to run the Pentagon. The amendment would permit the president to use the military for law enforcement purposes in the United States. This, of course, would present a radical departure from any use to which the military has been put in the memory of any Americans now living. The federal government used the military on a regular basis for law enforcement was at the end of Reconstruction in the South. The year was 1876. In fact, the deal to end Reconstruction resulted in the enactment of federal laws prohibiting the use of domestic military purposes of American military, for domestic law enforcement purposes. This has been our law, this has been our custom, and this has been our set of values to which every president has adhered for 145 years. America, it is not for directing traffic that this legislation crafted in secret would authorize the president to use the military. Essentially, this legislation would enable the president to divert from the criminal justice system and thus to divert from the protections of the Constitution any person he pleases. And that person, under this terrifying bill, would have no recourse to a judge to require the president either to file charges against him or to set him free. Can you imagine an America in which you could lose all liberty from the presumption of innocence to the right to a lawyer, to fairness from the government, to a jury trial, simply because the president says you are dangerous? Well, nothing terrified or animated the founders more than that. The founders who wrote the Constitution had just won a war against a king who actually had less power than this legislation will give to American presidents. But to assure that the new government here would not do to Americans what the king had done and tried to do to the colonists, they wrote in the Constitution the now iconic guarantee of due process. The Fifth Amendment to the Constitution says, in plain and ordinary English, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Note, the founders used the word person. Thus, the requirement of due process must be accorded to all human beings restrained by the government. Not just Americans, not just nice people, but all persons. When Lincoln tried to defy this during the Civil War, the Supreme Court rejected him and ruled that the Constitution guarantees its protections to everyone that the government restrains, no matter the crime, no matter the charge, no matter the evidence, no matter the alleged danger. Think about this. The members of Congress who crafted this secret legislation have all taken a public oath to uphold the Constitution, and yet they have worked behind closed doors to undermine it. If you hired someone to protect your liberty and that person actually weakened your liberty, wouldn't you fire him? Of course you would. America, if this legislation becomes law, it will be dangerous for everyone to be right when the government is wrong. It will be dangerous for all of us. Just consider what any president could get away with if this amendment becomes the law. Who would he make disappear first? Might it be you? From New York, defending freedom. So long, America.